ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 73 of the Clutch Dump. I don't
I
know
think
what
so.
episode it is. This episode is a return to our automotive category. Category? How did the English say it? How do the weird Brits say it?
I don't know.
Well, they're weird for a reason.
Yes.
But guys, this episode we have a brand new two-car garage. We have a lot of interesting vehicles to talk about. We have the new Mercedes AMG GT. We have a few Restomods. We've got a few concepts. And last but not least, we have the Goodwood Revival, which is of the two good woods, the wood that is good that I have not been to. So, there's that. But before we dive into all that, make sure to follow us on social media.
There's
at
three
Clutch
good
Dump.
ones.
Well, not a members meeting. I mean, that's
Oh,
a
okay.
members
All right.
meeting. I'm not a
No,
member.
all right. Okay. Okay.
Okay, the publicly accessible Goodwoods.
Okay.
The
I'm just,
Goodwoods,
for the audience, there's more than just the
the
two.
Goodwoods that happen once yearly. Okay, so
Got it.
follow us on Instagram at the Clutch Dump. Follow us here on YouTube. Hi, at the Clutch Dump Pod, and then follow us wherever you're listening: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Pandora.
All of them.
Just
They're all-
search
we're-
for us, and if
we're all
we
there.
pop up, then we're there. So there you go.
If not, go somewhere else. We'll be there.
But for this week's two-car garage, it is a simple one, but I think a fun one, because I leave in
quite
2
good.
weeks for Mecum, Dallas, with Radford Racing School, and so I told Ben, how about we just pick two cars that are our favorites from the Mecum Dallas auction, and I just thought of a new twist, Ben. We pick our two favorites, and as a coincidence, we see which two sold for more.
Ooh, that could be quite good.
So,
I'm down for that.
Ben, ladies first, which
Oh, of course.
Hertzies and
Okay.
which two-car garage, or which of your two would you like to start with?
I will start with the newer of my two vehicles, and that is a 2014 Ford Shelby GT
I
500
knew you were gonna
Super
pick one of
Snake
those.
Signature Edition wide body.
I
It's
knew
the
you were
longest
picking
name
one.
ever given to a Mustang. It's super cool. This is my favorite generation of modern Mustang. If we're talking like 2000 and newer. It's my favorite generation. I think it looks
Everybody
fantastic.
drop a thumbs down in the chat for Ben.
Especially, what, do you not like this generation?
Hashtag S197 gang.
The hashtag this is an S197.
I thought it was the S550.
Nope, 2014, last year of the S197.
Okay, my bad. That's all.
It's the facelifted one, so it's not your brother's car. It's the one after that.
That's why I
but-
don't know.
Oh, big Chevy guy now. Big Chevy guy. Again.
I've only had two, so
So this is super cool, especially the Super Snake edition. It was the last car that Carroll Shelby kind of had a hand in, or had his say over
Rest in
before
peace.
before he passed away. So this is super cool. Makes like, I don't know, 1,000 horsepower. This one is number 2 of 50. It's black over black. It's fantastic.
Ben, I actually just want to hear your second because we may have a double delight of muscle cars.
My second one, it's muscle car-ish.
Let's go for it. Hit me with it.
My second car is a 2009 Dodge Viper ACR. So it's the 4th gen Viper, which is my
Ooh.
favorite gen of Viper, and especially in the ACR. And this is the exact spec that I would have. It is black with 2 red stripes. It's got the big silly wing on the back. It's got a side exit exhaust. It's got black interior.
Of
That's
all
how
the
I'd have it.
cars, those were the two you'd pick, really? That's kind of
Yep.
crazy.
Yep, those are the 2 that I would take home.
Well, mine are more surprising
Okay,
because neither of them are Porsches.
that is incredibly
But
surprising.
remember
There
where I
was
said I work for Radford Racing School? I think it's getting to my head. Also, ignore this. I don't know what this
ignore
is.
that.
So, my first one is the 2023 Dodge Challenger Swinger. In the
I saw
sublime
that.
green with the 6-speed manual, the shaker, the anniversary gold wheels. One of 1,000 made, factory wide body. It's got their upgraded damping suspension. It's got all their goodies, your 6-piston calipers. These final call special edition Challengers and Chargers are just so fucking hot. It's not fair. So that's my first one. My
That car is
second one,
very green.
My second one is arguably the greatest Dodge made in the 21st century that's not a Viper.
Okay.
It is the 2023 Dodge Challenger Black Ghost with
Ooh, that's cool.
one of 300 produced. It has an 807 horsepower, 6.2 liter. This one has 30 or 26 miles on it. It's got the 8-speed auto, but it's got the competition suspension. It's got all of the upgrades, your trunk stripe, all the audio upgrades. And it's also got, which I love, the roof in the like reptile scale pattern of the original.
Yeah, it's got
Ghost.
the alligator print on it, which is super
This
cool.
car literally has the delivery packaging all over the inside. It is a brand new car. Oh, and I didn't realize, because I'm a Porsche guy, so I love little badges that make the car somehow worth more. On the front, they have the original Dodge badging up over
Across the nose.
Oh,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. That's quite good. Well done, sir. You picked
two boats.
well,
I
you
thought I'd
picked
go
two
for a
boats,
little
but
yacht.
it's a very Nick garage for Nick from, 3 years
I feel
ago.
like a more Nick garage would have been the GT3 RS and the 2 RS.
Yeah, but that would have been predictably Nick.
That's true. That is true. I do, believe it or not, I am not more than one dimensional.
It's rare, but it does happen. Well, all right. I'll throw some pictures of those in the pod, and we will see whenever those sell, who had the more expensive garage. I think it actually could be yours.
Oh yeah, no, I think each of those Dodges are going to go for 200 minimum.
Yeah, I think the more expensive of the two is the Mustang for me. So that ACR will probably be. I mean, the ACR has 200 miles on it. To be fair,
That's it.
it has 222 miles to be exact. So I mean, it'll be a six-figure car, but that Mustang is being, number 2 of 50 and having, I don't know how many miles are on it. But
So
I mean, it makes 1,000 horsepower to the tires. It's only got 4,000 miles on it. So
that's actually ridiculous. So before we jump into all the automotive news, I do have some rally. I do have some racing, but also rally news on
Jeez.
Twitter that I think is worth mentioning before our automotive episode on Monday. So, David Malukas signs a multi-year contract to drive for Arrow McLaren beginning in 2024, replacing Felix Rosenquist. We had a funny, silly photo that I will send you of a man who climbed up the side of the mountain in the Acropolis Rally and was holding on to the edge of the road to watch. So that's silly.
Rally people are weird.
Pierre Louis Loubet has retired on day 2 of the Greek Acropolis Rally with technical issues. IMSA gave a BOP update to multiple GT cars, including both GTD Pro and GTD Class Championship leading entries. They've been hit with BOP adjustments ahead of next weekend's race at Indianapolis. Alex Palou was talking about how maybe he would have done IndyCar or F1 if he was younger. We have Colton Herta, who did the exhibition in his dad's Renard Cosworth kart IndyCar,
Which sounded so good.
And on the new asphalt, it was 4 seconds faster than the lap record.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's absurd. AJ Allmendinger's family had a child. Did you see what he named it?
I did not. I did see that there is a child, but I did not see the name.
The first name of AJ Allmendinger's child is Arrow. A-E-R-O. Arrow.
That's such a... normal people could not do that as a name, but
But he's a NASCAR driver too. Like Arrow. Arrow in your Camaro.
I mean, to be fair, Arrow doesn't necessarily mean downforce. It's just a really cool name for the kid of a race car driver. So
Fair enough.
it's cool.
In sports car news, we have GR Racing and Project 93 or Project 1 are pondering the next steps for their GT programs because Porsche obviously selected Manthey Racing to run their entries in World Endurance. And so these two privateer teams are deciding if they do stuff in Europe, if they do stuff in America, or what that looks like. World Endurance Championship news: Hertz team Jota has ruled out running any IMSA races with the Porsche 963 because they're actually trying to double to two Porsche 963s in World Endurance Championship, and that is from the team
Sick.
principal Dieter Goss. Conquest Racing, who races an SRO World GT, has submitted a full season IMSA GTD entry request for 2024, with plans to field their Ferrari 296 GT3 featuring their lead driver Manny Franco. Brendan Hartley is set to return to Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport in 2024, having left or now rumored leaving Toyota. In NASCAR news, John Hunter Nemechek has signed to Legacy Motor Club in 2024. We also had Fernando drive a Aston Martin GT3 DTM car, so that was kind of cool.
Neat.
From Sportscar 365, Toyota protege Ritomo Miyata will make his FIA WEC debut at the 6 Hours of Fuji there this weekend, replacing Daniel Serra. Also, my goddamn Twitter just refreshed. What the hell? Literally in the middle of me reading it. Okay, here we go. He will be replacing Daniel Serra in the Kessel Racing GTE AM Ferrari. Haupt Racing Team CEO Ulrich Fritz said an entry into World Endurance LMGT3 class is not a priority, that he wants to potentially run their cars in a European Le Mans Series bid. And then Miles Rowe, who won the Indy Next Championship, USF Pro title. He's joining HMD Motorsports with Force Indy in Indy Next in 2024. Let's see. And then Daniel Hemrick is taking over the number 10 Chevrolet for Colleague Racing for the remaining races in Xfinity. And I think that's it. Yep.
All right. Well, one last thing before we get into our automotive episode, I just have to ask because I'm curious. We are going to pretty much dedicate a whole episode to this. But for those of you that don't follow my lovely co-host on the gram,
I have some news about that too. That's unfortunate.
Oh no.
No, go ahead and give the news, and then.
Okay. Well, so if you don't know, we did mention it, I think briefly in episode 72, but Mr. Patty is going to do, maybe, I guess, I don't know, depending on his unfortunate news, a 4-day Formula 4 driving experience course thing through Radford. And I had questions. Because, for starters, this will be the first open wheel car you've ever driven. So you drove it yesterday?
I was there as Spencer Bucknam, who is the grandson of a multi-time Le Mans winner and the son of a multi-time Daytona and Le Mans winner, who's a current SRO driver, was breaking down the car.
Got it. So no racing heritage or chops with that guy. Noted.
No, yeah, an absolute no one.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, well, in that case, I don't have questions. But, well, no, I could still ask some of these questions. So this will be first open wheel car you've ever driven, correct?
Yes.
Okay. First sequential car you've ever driven.
Yes.
Okay. First Honda powered car you've ever driven.
Why are you making me more anxious? Yes.
No. I'm just curious. It's for, okay.
Ben's like, so you're unqualified here. This is new. You won't know how to do this.
Well, just like that. That's just how it works. That's the purpose of the course, you know. Like,
or something.
Or something. Okay. I'm mainly curious. You'll be the only person aside from Jake that I know who has driven.
I'm a little bit more accessible though because I'm not away on yachts partying.
Right. I think he's at Road America right now or something testing. Wherever. He's always somewhere testing. But you'll be the only person I know who has driven a downforce car.
You know what's funny is Spencer was out there like dialing in the car and I was taking note of all his braking points and I was sitting there and I was like, if he can do it in the car, then I can do it. Because the car is capable. It's just me having enough balls
Yeah.
and downshifting properly to get it slowed down for the corner.
Hmm.
Because Danny, our chief instructor, turned and was like, I can't believe he's braking at 50. And I was like,
Oh,
get ready to
50.
believe it twice. Like,
Oh, yeah,
but
that'll be super cool.
they were playing around with the pedal box and the brake bias and stuff yesterday. And
That's
so
for sure, brake bias is a super fun thing to play with. It's actually interesting. Well, if for the listeners, if you've never been in a car with adjustable brake bias, we've got one or two cars at the shop that have tilt and pedal boxes in them, and so you've got a giant red knob on the dash that you can mess with.
yeah.
And it's really fun to be able to just like crank it one way and see what happens.
Dude, I'm so ready to stall it because it's got
it's gonna happen.
a foot clutch, but then
Yeah.
you're selecting gear up here, and I'm gonna be like pedal,
Well,
and then paddles like
but it's a sequential, so you should only need to use the clutch to leave.
yeah.
Like leave the line,
Yeah,
and then
no,
you can
exactly.
just click, 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 click. So
Yeah, but hearing Spencer, it was like clutch in, and then it would start to pull away. I was like, holy shit!
yeah,
how much
because
throttle are
the
you
clutch,
giving?
because the whole clutch pack is like this
Yeah.
big, probably. It's it's like the size of a CD, and it's probably like a crazy metallic race
So
clutch.
my unfortunate news makes everything we just talked about a little bit less cool.
Oh no!
So the class that I'm taking is the Grand Prix road racing class, and so 2
Okay.
days is non F4, 2 days is F4.
Okay.
It's now all 4 days non F4 because they're not ready yet. However,
Okay.
Danny said they're basically going to give me just another 2 days when they are
Sick.
ready. That's all F4, and most like the first day will be learning, and then the second day will just be like open track sessions.
Okay. So the class that you're doing next week, you're gonna do in a Challenger.
In a 6-speed Tremec Hellcat Red Eye
Fun. Driven one of those.
with
Pretty rowdy car.
pretty upgraded brakes, some stiffened suspension,
Yeah.
half cage, and harness.
Sick.
So that'll be. Honestly, I'm more intimidated by that, mainly because it's
I would be too.
heavy and powerful. When let's think about the cars I'm into, Porsche's light and
Also,
not as powerful.
I think more expensive than that F4 car.
Knew they would be,
Yeah.
but they're not now. I mean, they've been beaten to.
Right. Because I did some quick looking before.
F4 cars new are what, 150?
I think a Ligier JS F4, which is the car that Radford uses, I think new they're 148.
Okay, yeah.
Which, by the way, I found several used. Now, granted, I have no idea what goes into running a used F4 car. Like, I have no idea what needs
It's a
to be replaced.
non-turbo Honda motor. It can't be that much.
It can't be that much. Yeah, it's a K20C2 for the nerdy Honda folk in the audience. But like I found used ones all day for 50 grand. All day. So, by the way, for those of you listening, that's what I'm saying.
Hey, start a GoFundMe for the clutch dump so we can get our brake car.
Yeah, so everyone please go to YouTube, subscribe, like and share the video so that we can get monetized and make money so Nick and I can go halvesies on an F4 car, even though we are completely different builds of human beings. It would be
So I joked with my boss Kim because he's like 6'4". I was like, and he has to take the class too. I was like, I can't wait to see you try to get in it.
That should be quite interesting.
So by Thursday I'll have my SCCA competition license.
Sick.
And then I was already scheming of ways of rich people I know that already race for fun, so they're already paying for it. And
like,
then
how do I get more seat time?
Well, no, like one of the teams I did work with dissolved itself, and now that team is still running, but just for the owner's fun. And I'm like, well, if the owner's already paying for it all out of his pocket,
right?
Put me in the car, throw me a bone.
So something I didn't realize is actually those Formula 4 cars are much longer than I thought they were.
They are incredibly small when you're standing next to them.
They're quite small, but wheelbase wise, they're bigger than my Camaro. They have 7 more inches of wheelbase than my Camaro does.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's something larger than a 4th gen Camaro. You heard it here.
Well, okay, so at some point we have to do an episode on the world's least proportional car on the planet, which is the 4th gen Camaro, as I've been reading into it. So the wheelbase on an F4 car is 7 inches longer than my car, which means it's 4 inches shorter than your Camaro.
The 5th-gen?
Yeah, the 5th gen has 11 more inches of wheelbase
Long?
than the Camaro. Yeah. So, in case you're wondering, before we get into a whole episode about the Camaro, if you want to know how disproportional it is, the wheelbase, so center line of the front axle to center line of the rear axle, for those listening, that distance on a 5th gen is 11 inches longer than my car.
But your car's probably overall length is still longer.
My car is 3 inches longer than the Camaro, or than the 5th gen Camaro, which makes no sense. Like, it is the wheelbase in my car is shorter than a Corvette.
The designers were like, "Hey, all right, listen. We need to put more shitty fiberglass on either side." You understand?
Here's what makes no sense to me. The person who designed my car is the same person who designed the C4 Corvette, the 3rd gen Camaro, and the C5 Corvette. It's the same guy.
And it's the ugliest of them all.
And I don't get it. He's like, yeah, we'll just take everything and just throw away all concepts of proportionality and everything. Like, it makes
He was smoking
no
a huge blunt when he designed the 4th gen.
Has to be. There's no way that you designed a C5
when he designed the others.
You cannot design a C5 and a 4th gen and
the
they've been in the same mindset.
The best looking of the 4.
Yeah. So it makes no sense. Anyway, that's going to be super cool. So whenever you have driven a Formula 4 car, let me know. We'll talk about your 4-day thing next week.
Yes.
Because that'll be super cool just to get some insight on. But whenever you drive a Formula 4 car.
A vlog.
And he's making a vlog, ladies and gentlemen, so we'll get that. But we do need to move in to episode 73. And we're going to start with a car that's kind of old news now, because it's been out for a while. But the new Mercedes AMG GT. Now, Nick and I have very differing opinions.
No, we have the same opinions. We finished our conversation last time agreeing.
I have changed my opinion drastically since then. New AMG GT, so replacing the very pretty previous gen. So some specs on the new AMG GT. They've released 2 versions, a GT55 and a GT63. 55 makes 469 horsepower, 63 makes 577 horsepower. They're all-wheel drive for now. They have rear seats, actual rear seats that like humans can sit in. They have a 4-liter twin-turbo V8, which is carried over from the previous gen. Actually makes a bit more horsepower in base trim. It has a traditional 9-speed torque converter automatic, so traditional automatic like you'd find in a new Dodge Challenger or something. Positioned directly behind the V8 as opposed to the old AMG GT, which had a 7-speed dual-clutch transaxle, better for weight distribution. As a result of this, the V8 now sits on top of the front axle line instead of behind it, so it's no longer a front mid-engine car. It's in a traditional location. It has rear-wheel steering added to it, which makes sense because the wheelbase is longer, the car is physically bigger, so rear-wheel steering helps with low-speed maneuverability. It has semi-active hydraulically linked suspension with active dampers, which is a very fancy way of saying it has computers that talk to each other. It has a power-actuated rear hatch, which I don't know why Mercedes put that in the press release, but they did, so I felt it was necessary to add it to our notes.
The rear hatch is not manual.
Not manual. We don't have to apply effort anymore. Don't even got to touch it. Press a button on the key, does it itself.
Like almost every other SUV that moms buy.
Yes, every car that you can buy now.
You also get that on the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, but you don't pay the same amount.
But as a result of all that, it now has a curb weight of 4,343 pounds, which for reference, the previous AMG GT was at 3,700 pounds for the standard base car. The GTR was at 3933. A Bugatti Veyron is 4122. And a 992 Turbo S, which appears to be this car's new rival, is at 3,636 pounds.
As if the 992 Turbo S would walk the Mercedes.
No, but I feel like it's a similar buyer's demographic of a sporty Grand Tourer car.
See, the only thing you're missing, though, is the Turbo buyers have class.
Right, because Mercedes owners have never been known for having class.
No, they have been known for committing a genocide and starting a world war, though, so...
Oh, because Porsche hasn't been associated with that at all.
Hey, Hitler rode in a Mercedes. He didn't touch a Porsche.
I suppose that is correct, yes.
Okay. So he owned a
Okay.
Mercedes, and he did all those.
Anyway,
Porsche just built a damn good tank.
so it appears that the new AMG GT is positioned more towards German Bentley Continental is kind of what it is now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame. I don't know why they're building this car. It makes no sense to me. Mr. Patty, your thoughts?
I think it's the best looking car Mercedes has made since the SLS.
Agreed.
Okay, so you haven't changed your opinion.
But I don't like it. I do think it's pretty, but I don't like it.
Well, I don't like it either. It's got the TriStar Mercedes badge on the front.
But here's my problem. They already make this car.
Okay, still don't care. I wouldn't buy any of them.
So, here's the thing. So the new AMG GT is a all-wheel drive 4-liter twin-turbo V8 with back seats.
I stopped caring about Mercedes when they threw turbos on the V8s.
If you want a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 with a 9-speed automatic and rear seats and all-wheel drive and something that weighs 4,300 pounds, you could buy the SL, which makes the same horsepower, has the same motor, the same transmission, the same all-wheel drive system.
Yeah, but this one looks better.
And has back seats. Or you could buy a C63S AMG, which has the same power, all-wheel drive,
still looks better,
the same motor, rear seats, the same automatic, and weighs 4,300 pounds.
Still looks better.
I'm not saying it doesn't look better. It does look better.
That's why you'd buy it.
But they already make this car. It already exists. They actually make 3 of the same car now.
So?
Why would you do that? It's the same
because
purpose.
They're Mercedes and they're stupid, and I just can't wait for the day when they go out of business. They won't, but I want them to.
It's Mercedes. They make more money than any other German car manufacturer that isn't Volkswagen.
Okay, so that's not a lot.
But they make more money than Porsche, Audi, or BMW.
Well, right.
They're an incredibly successful
company. Make 3 of the same car.
I suppose that is correct. Maybe that's the key. Is just build the same thing over and over again and charge 3 times as much for one of them.
People that are buying Mercedes don't look at horsepower. They don't look at the transmission in that compared to the SL. They're just like...
AMG buyers do.
Your average AMG buyer doesn't. They buy it just because it's the nicest Mercedes, and so they want the street cred.
That's the same for all car manufacturers.
No, because I think people that buy a GT3 RS or that buy a Turbo S less so.
Turbo S significantly less so.
Are more familiar with the mechanical differences in the car because the 911s are so similar in terms of the look and the general proportions and everything that the only really thing that makes them different is the actual trim
motor
level. But compared to an entirely different model but has all the same components, they're going to be like, well, it's a different car. It's not an SL. It's a AMG GT, so it must be different. They're just going to go buy it.
Yeah, I suppose.
But like, if someone goes to buy a 911, they're going to be like, oh, which 911? GT3 RS. Oh.
The most expensive one they can afford, and preferably in GT Silver over Black. Because that's how 911 people are. Anyway, that's the new AMG GT.
Yeah, can I have it in Miami Blue? Oh, you're out? Yeah, I'll take GT Silver, thank you.
GT Silver.
I love when I see shit for sale on Elfer Spot, and they try to go, this breathtakingly beautiful example remains like timelessly maintained in classic GT Silver. And I'm like, stop trying.
You can't classic GT Silver.
Somehow this is like a well... What's the word they always use? It's a well something car.
Yeah, like it's ridiculous. 1 second, I'm sending you pictures from Cars and Coffee this morning. There were some nice Porsches there, so I figured I'd send you some pictures.
Okay, so the second one?
Oh, that the 944. Oh my gosh, I walked past that with some friends, and I was just gonna walk past. I was gonna ignore it, and they all went take a picture for Nick. So
that 964 was hot. The blue.
That 964 was so good. We nerded out about that car for a long time.
Yeah,
that car
you and all your non-Porsche friends.
Yes, they all went this is a beautiful car.
See, that's the effect.
I
Of
want a
Porsche.
964. Yep. So
Porsche is better.
and apparently the new trend is putting GT3 wings on non-GT3s. And leaving the 3.8 badge on it, because Nick, I sent you 2 pictures of Carreras with GT3 wings and they still said 3.8 on the side.
Yep.
It was quite funny.
Because everybody that buys a 997 is like, well, I don't want to be saying a 996, but I can't afford a 991.
Get me doing that. So throw a GT wing on it. Speaking of Porsches, we have some Restomods to talk about, 2 of which have the crest on the nose. One of them I'm particularly interested in because it is a very, very busy segment, and they happen to do something different. So we actually talked about this car a long time ago, but they kind of released photos of it.
Keep talking, yes. I'm going to go blow my nose.
Okay, Mr. Patty is going to go and explode his nose. So we're going to talk about the Tedson Daydream. We talked about this car, I don't know, way back when, like 20 or 30 episodes ago. But this is from a company called Tedson. This is the first of 2 models that they have debuted. It's based on a 1990 964, as it appears that most of the higher-end 911 Restomods are. Features a 4-liter flat 6, pretty standard for a Restomod 911. However, what isn't standard is the electric motor sandwiched between the flat 6 and the transaxle. So if you're familiar with how engines and transmissions are connected, specifically Porsches, essentially between the bell housing and the engine, there's an electric motor sandwiched in there. And the purpose of that is it replaces the starter. It also acts as a hybrid torque fill for the 4-liter flat 6. So
I love how I come back and it sounds like you're giving a lecture on some advanced technology, and I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? And then I hear 4-liter flat 6. I'm like,
got it. So, Mr. Patty, Tedson Daydream. 4-liter flat 6 hybrid.
I think it looks stupid. I hate what they've done to the body. I don't like it.
I like the rear.
I just don't like it.
I like the bumper and I like the taillights. The nose looks
wrong.
So this is a very common thing that happens in the aftermarket Restomod world.
They fuck shit up? Yes.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but yes, people get too into shaving things and smoothing things out that they just end up looking wrong.
Yeah, I don't like the rear either. What's funny to me is people are like, the 911 is the most legendary sports car in the world, in the history of the world, for a reason. And when you take too much of it away, shocker, maybe it doesn't look as good.
Yet somehow the Gunther works.
No, and I agree.
For some reason.
But here's the thing. The Gunther Works is is a 993 modeled car, which I think the 993 has more variability for different things, because in the 993 generation, they were throwing bigger wings on them, and they were punching out the fenders and throwing on BBS wheels or speed lines or Porsche wheels. When you make something that is supposed to look like a G-body, you have like 2 options, which is every 911 that isn't an RSR, and then an RSR, and that's it.
Right. So, pretty interesting styling on the car. The wheels are all right. I think they look all right. I don't know that I'd throw them on a 964. They'd look a bit more at home on something like a 996 or 997. The interior's quite good. It looks rather simple. Updated carbon fiber aluminum bits in there. But the interesting part to me is the hybrid aspect of it. And so with this electric motor, it only has a 1 kilowatt hour battery, which is tiny considering a Tesla has, I think, a 90 kilowatt hour battery.
Right.
So the addition of this 1 kilowatt hour battery runs the electronics and the hybrid motor. So it runs not only the electric motor sandwich between the transmission and the flat 6, but it also runs things like your radio and the headlights and all that stuff. So it replaces the normal battery. So actually replacing the standard battery with this 1 kilowatt hour battery saves 37 pounds off the car, which is pretty cool. The car has different modes, so it's got different driving modes that you can select. It's got a standard mode, which has 385 horsepower. It's got a sport mode. The sport mode is 100% engine power and 50% electric power. That's 459 horsepower, 390 pound-feet of torque. And then sport plus mode is 100% engine power, 100% electric power, and it's 533 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque, which is the impressive number. They haven't said I'm going to, or no, sorry, it's 500 grand. That's what it costs, which is on par for resto-modded 911s.
But it's the worst of them, so it's not.
Well, it's the ugliest. It probably drives quite good.
It's not. I guarantee it doesn't drive better than a Gunther Works.
It costs a third of what a Gunther Works does.
Does it really?
Yeah, Gunther Works started like 1.2.
So then what are the other Restomod 911s that you're referring to?
Singer, Tuthill.
Okay, both of those are better.
The big names. Yes, I'm sure this doesn't... I'm sure it's half the driving experience, but it's half the cost. Yes, Nick.
Would you take a Tuthill or this?
A Tuthill.
Okay, end of discussion. There, done.
But I said that it isn't as good of a driving experience as the rest of them. Probably. It's probably a good...
You buy a sports car?
What?
Repeat that. The only reason you buy a sports car is for the driving experience?
Yes. It also doesn't cost $1.5 million like the rest of them.
But it's more than double the driving experience, I bet, so...
Right. And if you don't have more than double the price, buy this one. It looks pretty cool.
Or just buy a real 911, and it's still probably better.
I don't know as far as a Carrera 4, because that's what this is based off of. So...
Well, okay, so a 964 Carrera 4 might not be better, but you can go buy a 996 GT2 Club Sport for less than half of what this car is. So just go do that.
No, I'm not saying it's the best 911 experience, but it's a different 911 experience, and that's why I find the car cool.
That's the problem, then. That's the problem.
No, it's different. The only reason I like it is because it's different. It's not another Singer or a Gunther Works. That's what I like about it. They did something different, which is the only way that you can...
do something different, it would have been a Restomodded 4th gen hybrid, okay? Let's be real. They're doing a Restomod 911. They're not different.
I'm working on it. Well, Restomod hybrid is pretty different. The final product weighs 2860, which is incredibly light for a all-wheel drive hybrid car. Tedson recommends that you use the Carrera 4. They said the Carrera 2 can be a proper Widowmaker, making 533 horsepower. They said it can be pretty sketchy for the average driver.
They're like, oh, I don't know, it can be pretty scary. And then Singer's over here making more, and then Gunther Works is making more, and they're like, huh? What?
So it's available in Super Sport and Sport Classic derivatives. So the Super Sport comes in black and exposed carbon with 18 or 19-inch wheels, and then the Sport Classic comes fully painted with stripes and 17 or 18-inch Fuchs-style wheels. They said it's $500,000. So for those of you out there that have millions of dollars to spend on 911s, here's another option to throw in your stable. Now, a car that I think Nick and I both agree on a bit more is something that I'm quite excited about, called the 1511 914. So this is from a company called 1511. They are known for being a rally team in the WRC several years back, and they have created something called the 1511 914. So they sent out some renderings of this, posted some renderings of this about 2 years ago, and it has officially gone from render to reality. So this is pretty good. We don't see many 914 Restomods out there.
I would take this over the Tedson any day of the week.
I absolutely would. I'd take this over a lot of Restomods.
And it only has 325 horsepower, which I'm so grateful they weren't like, hey, you know what? Every car today has like minimum 400. We need to just pump horsepower through it.
Yeah, it needs to make 700 horsepower. No, it doesn't. So I think this car is fantastic. If you've listened to the podcast before, you know I've kind of got a soft spot for the 914.
And if you listen to the podcast, you know I have a soft spot for, Porsche.
Anything with a badge on it. Big Panamera guy, Mr.
I am
Patty.
a Porsche slut.
Anyway.
I let Porsche spit on me and slap me.
We have gone too far. Anyway, it has a 3.8 liter flat six and the 6-speed manual from a 987 Cayman S.
I know something of that myself.
The 6-speed and the motor eventually were from a 987 Cayman S. The 3.8 part is not from a Cayman S. They did that part.
I know something of a 6-speed from a Cayman S myself.
So, do you still own a Cayman? Is that still a thing at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey,
if you're listening, you want to buy a cheap Cayman, let me know.
I would buy a cheap Cayman. I just don't want to buy yours. So yours is way too nice for what I want to do. Anyway, so it starts with an original 914 chassis, and it has been stiffened with some T45 tubing and new pickup points to accommodate the Boxster drivetrain. So I'll post some pictures up here if you're on the Ewan tubes. You can see kind of in this open door shot and in the interior shots, you can see the stiffened center section where the trans tunnel would be in a front engine car. But essentially the shifter tunnel is stiffened, and then it's got these crazy door bars on it, and then they stitch welded the whole chassis. So that's super neat. Let's see, let me get back to my notes here. Where did it go? Sorry, original 914 chassis, stiffened, produces 380 and 400 horsepower. So you can get two different trims, making 380 or 400 horsepower, which is 4 times the factory 914 horsepower. So this thing is a riot. And it is twice that of a 914 6 GT. So even the highest variant that Porsche had that raced at Le Mans, it's making twice that. It's all Cayman-based suspension geometry, so you do get new engine reliability, new engine power. You also get new car chassis dynamics, which is super good, because if they just threw 400 horsepower in a 914 chassis with 914 suspension in it, that would be kind of sketchy. So it's got WRC-derived Regere 3-way adjustable coilovers, carbon body panels, stainless exhaust, Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, which is a pretty aggressive tire. I assumed they would have put Pilot Sport 4S on it. They probably threw Cup 2s on it so that they can get 0 to 60 times and all that stuff, and it looked really impressive on the brochure. And then I'm assuming you can option it with the PS4S. Another cool thing that I actually really like, which is something so interesting about Restomods that you can only do with something that's mid or rear engine, such as a Porsche, is the bulkhead and the fuel tank have been redesigned to allow for more legroom, which is super cool because old sports cars are really small, and if you're over 6 feet tall, they can feel super cramped and not super comfortable. And you can have this fantastic car with this glorious flat 6 that looks good and beautiful, and you paid $440,000 for it, but you don't fit, or you're cramped, or you get a cramp in your leg when you drive it, or whatever.
Or you could be like me and not have the $440,000, but at least I fit.
But at least he's not 6.5 feet tall, so he fits. So they moved the bulkhead, which is essentially where your feet sit, pushed that forward towards the front wheels, giving you more legroom, which is super cool. Nick, Patty, you had some comments on the design of this car, specifically the front end.
So I love this car. I really do. However, and I'm noticing something different about it now that I'm looking at it here. I don't like the heat extracting, or the whatever the vent is up in the hood. The rear facing vent. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan
on the hood that's like, okay, yeah.
I'm not a fan of the actual side scoops either. I don't like those.
The wide body that you can see in that front 3/4 shot that I have, where it's in the
not
forest.
A fan. And then my biggest problem with it is just that the front bumper has that, first of all, a pretty strong lower valence, and then it has the, front little air intake, almost like the Cayman GT4 981.
Right.
In the black plastic, and for me, it's my biggest problem with the Restomod Porsches is, for me, a Restomod Porsche is taking an old Porsche, trying to keep as much of it as true to the original, and in traditional terms, a Restomod is just new underpinnings.
So this is something that both...
It's moved into, like, bespoke, handmade parts that aren't necessarily original and aren't necessarily just new underpinnings, which I don't have a problem with. But my problem is when they make a Restomod Porsche and they think, oh, let's take an old Porsche and then make it look like it was designed in 2023. So let's put like a front bumper on it that looks like a Cayman, and it's like you could just leave and slightly refresh the 914 front end. You don't have to tinker with it. Like,
right.
That's my problem.
So I think this is something that both you and I agree on, is that Restomods are better when you could be able to walk past them. I think that's something that you and I both
And that's
like.
what I love about the Tuthill, and that's what
Right. That's the good thing about the Tuthill, and even Singers to an extent of like, if you don't know what you're looking for, a normal person should be able to walk by it and go, oh, look, a 914, and then just, yeah, like a roof. Go, oh, that's a lovely old 911, or oh, that's a good looking 914, and then walk by it. Whereas, like the eagle-eyed people, such as myself or Nick, should be able to look at it and go, well, it's got a bit more flair here, and there's a vent there, and like it should be real subtle. Whereas this, if you see it, you'd actually look around and go, oh, it's a 914. You'd actually think, what is it? And then 914.
Right.
Not, oh, it's a 914. Oh, wait, what is this? It's backwards from how it should be. Now, I don't have as big of a problem with the vent on the side right in front of the door. I don't particularly like it. The problem is, if they're going with 914.6 inspired, whatever, like the car is obviously wide-bodied. I'll post some pictures I'll put some pictures up on the screen for those watching on YouTube. You can see in the front 3/4 and the rear 3/4 pictures, it's obviously wide-bodied, but I think what they could have done is just taken a 914.6 bodywork and then just like increased it by 10 or 15%, and it would have been so much better.
I don't even have a problem with the wide body. It's that the door's not flush with it.
Right, and the door isn't flush with it all the way around. It's the front, the bottom, on the sill, and the back.
Exactly. You have this weird cutout where it's like front, cut, rear cut. And it's like, why is the door... It's as if someone literally took the door and pushed it into the car by an inch. And that's how it looks. And it just looks weird to me.
It looks almost misaligned. It's kind of race car looking, I guess. But the thing with the front end, for starters, I don't really like the headlights either. For starters, we'll just say this. Rear of the car, great. Perfect. Big fan. Yep. Headlights are weird. They got rid of the lenses and inserted a projector light, kind of like you'd see in a 992. So if you actually look at that front view, like there's actually just a hole where the headlights are supposed to go, and you can see a projector light in there.
Well,
I don't like that. I'd kind of like to see.
Wait, no, but which one? Where the headlights used to be, or where the turn signals used to be?
Oh, sorry, where the turn signals used to be.
Okay.
Sorry, where the turn signals used to be. They've gotten rid of the lens and put it, which I can see if you want to like take the lens and instead of it being faded, have it be like a more clear amber lens and then have it be LEDs. That's fine.
I think that would look cooler. Make those headlights. I don't like halos.
Right, you can update it and do that. I would turn them into the headlights, which is fine. The thing with the front bumper is you have to do something with it, because something to note, 914s are air-cooled. This is water-cooled. So that's the biggest shift, so that's why there has to be some sort of adjustment to the front bumper. Now, I feel like they could have gone and looked through the 914 catalog of the 50s, 60s, and 70s and looked at, there were splitters on stuff, there was whatever, and they could have found some sort of better way to do a more subtle grill and heat extractor in the hood, because the front end of the car does look like you took a 914 and grafted a 918 into it. Or sorry, a 981. So you've got these very low halo lights, which look like running lights, but those are in fact the headlights. They got rid of the pop-up headlights, which is fine, because that's actually something I'm working on right now. It's very hard to make pop-up headlights look modern. They just look inherently old. So I kind of wish they took the turn signal spot, turned those into headlights, and then just did a bit more of a subtle front end to it. And I think the fact that it's black and looks plastic really hurts the front end of this car. It looks aftermarket. Obviously, the whole car's aftermarket. It's a Restomod. But if I had one, I'd want it to be not noticeable. Where I do think they did fantastic is the interior of this car.
I agree.
The interior looks so good. The buckets look incredibly comfortable. I like the simplicity of it. I like that, it's a nice shifter. They've got a 917 inspired shift knob, as is standard for almost all Porsche Restomods.
I attached in the bottom of our dock 2 ways to do a wide body and a front end better.
Yeah, I think that front end looks really good. I think that would have worked. Not as aggressive.
Rear fenders. Like, what the hell?
Those are some rear fenders. Yeah, I think they could have done something like that, but a bit more subtle and just a bit more smoothed out, and it would have looked really nice. But I think the interior is fantastic. I love the old school steering wheel. They didn't put a new school steering wheel in it. It's got analog gauges in it. They're probably electronic, obviously. But I like that the radio is on the passenger side. I think that's a super cool touch. Really emphasizes the whole driver focus thing. It looks like you've only got a couple knobs and switches. There's no buttons on the steering wheel. There's no big screens. There's no Apple CarPlay. There's none of that.
So you said this car's going to cost $440,000?
$440,000.
That is outrageous. If somebody said this car is a 200 grand car, I'd be like, okay, that's up there. But no, it's definitely, I think, worth it. But 440 grand, forget it.
As someone
Forget
who
it.
I understand
Forget
that it's very
it.
expensive. As someone who builds Restomods, they just cost that much. It's not possible to do a car that nice for cheaper. It's not possible.
Buy
You can't.
a real 914.6.
So buy a real 914.6, which is half the price, but won't have fuel injection.
So?
Won't have as nice of an interior.
So?
You know, if you want this experience, it costs this much. Restomods just are expensive. They just are.
Well, then they're silly, and I don't want one.
Then don't buy one. There's plenty of other rich people who will buy one from me. For example, I lost Nick. He died. He's back. For example, we're specking out a 70 Charger right now. And then with no engine, transmission, metalwork, paint, or body, I think his estimate is at $82,000.
Right. So it can be done for under 200.
That doesn't include installing any of the parts.
Oh.
So, like, that doesn't include any of that. That doesn't include an engine or a transmission or a wiring harness, you know? So, I mean, if you want to just if you just want to swap a motor into a car with a kit that already exists, this kit doesn't exist. They had to fabricate they had to do all the R&D on this. You know, we're putting a Hellcat into a 70 Charger. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. It wasn't popping up on my screen.
No, you're fine. So you can put a Hellcat into a 70 Charger. They sell a kit for that, so we're just doing that. You know, whereas they don't have a kit for this. So the R&D budget to do all of this is crazy. And then also, this is a super nice car. It all works. It's all got good fit and finish. It probably doesn't squeak. It doesn't rattle.
Hey,
you know, it's probably...
Who are you, man?
What?
You're talking about a squeaking mid-engine Porsche. I'm on to you. Don't think I'm not.
Nick, it's old. They all squeak. They all rattle. That's how cars work. Every single car built before, like, 2010 squeaks and rattles.
So I should just tell people who want to buy my Cayman, no, the Strut's fine. It's just an old car.
Yeah, it's whatever. It happens. Hey, it could be worse. Your rear windshield could be falling out of your car. That'd be me, by the way.
Is it happening in your car?
Oh, I'll send you a video of it later. I actually might even throw it in the podcast right now, but I walked past my car the other day and just set my hand on the rear glass, and I heard a...
Stop.
And I went and I looked at it.
Build quality.
And I can... Gaskets. Every gasket will go bad. It has to happen.
That's
it's
Chevy
not...
build quality.
It's 24... It's like 100 years old, Nick.
That's Chevy build quality.
Yes, but I walked... It also doesn't help that the glass weighs like 90 pounds in that car, but I walked past and set my hand on it, and I heard a... as if, like, the gasket was, like, making contact and then separating again. I walked back and I looked at it, and you can put your hand on my windshield, or on the rear glass of my car, and push down, and you can see the glass moving.
That's because you have as much weight in glass as you do fiberglass.
I'm just going to replace it with Lexan. I'm just not going to put glass back in it.
Hey, get some fiberglass, or get the acrylic, you know, rear window fabricated with a big old scoop in it for airflow.
What's the scoop for?
Airflow.
What for?
The passenger side window doesn't roll down. Maybe it's for people to be cool.
No, I fixed that. Passenger side window works great.
Great.
Nick left, so I fixed the car. But we are going to move on from our $500,000 Restomods and move on to something a bit cheaper. I'm actually very excited about this car. I think it's super cool. And it's called the Tolman Edition 205 GTI. And this is a car that we don't get here in the States. This is a
car that everything we just bitched about on Restomod Porsches, it does correctly.
Yes. So the two...
that it's a Peugeot. I hate that.
Except for the fact that it's French. but it appears that it's all been fixed. So if you're unfamiliar with what a 205 GTI is, the Peugeot 205 GTI is kind of the standard old hot hatch. Fantastic car. They were non-turboed. They were naturally aspirated 1.6 or 1.8s, I think they were. And this has been built by a company called Tolman, and they basically took it and fixed all of the parts from the 1980s that were crappy from the 1980s, brought them up to modern date, put some modern suspension in it, and it's fantastic. So you can get the car with a naturally aspirated 1.6 or 1.9, inline 4, comes with a ported cylinder head, Motec ECU, so it's got a race car grade ECU in it. It's got a Motec LCD screen that looks identical to the factory gauges in it. I didn't even know that it was an LCD screen.
Yeah, I didn't either. That's crazy.
Until I read that it was, because if you look at it, like, they've got reflections and depth into the LCD screen that look fantastic. There'll be pictures of that on the YouTube channel. So it's got that Motec LCD screen. It's got a drive-by-wire throttle body, so it's no longer cable, so you can get some better throttle response. Billet valve cover makes 197 horsepower naturally aspirated out of a 1.6 liter inline 4.
Let's go.
Which is fantastic. It's got a Quaife differential in it. Got a nice LSD up front. Quaife.
Okay.
LSD. Quaife is a company. They build differentials and sequentials. Honda guys know about Quaife. It's got what's called Michelin Youngtimer PE2 tires on it. They were like an old hot hatch tire, so new compound, but kind of an old style looking tire. It's got revised and enhanced shift rods and bushings, adjustable Bilstein dampers and adjustable lower control arms, bespoke anti-roll bars, AP racing calibers. You can get it with exclusive exterior colors, unique upholstery, air conditioning, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It's got electric windows, which is cool. You couldn't get one of those in a 205 GTI. Alcantara steering wheel, power steering with a short ratio steering rack, a bespoke Blaupunkt audio system, which apparently sounds fantastic. And all of this weighs 2,060 pounds. This car is super light. It costs 65 grand.
I would buy one.
Absolutely, I would buy one. If you haven't watched it, there's a video on the Haggerty YouTube channel. Henry Catchpole drove this car. Actually, the car that I'll have pictures of up. So 2,000 pounds, 200 horsepower, front wheel drive, hot hatch, Bilstein suspension, custom ECU, high revving, high RPM. It's got Android Auto, it's got Apple CarPlay, it's got AC, it's got electric windows. It's a modern 205 GTI Restomod for 65 grand. It's fantastic. For reference, a base 0 options 718 Boxster starts at 70. If you buy a 718 Boxster 2.5 turbo with 0 options, I mean, you option nothing on that car, it starts at $70,400.
Better deal, TBH.
Just saying, dude, you could buy 3 old Caymans with squeaky struts or a 205 GTI with some rowdy parts on it. And this is a little quote here from an article that I read. I can't remember where I got this article from. But it says, this is a car for connoisseurs who want to experience a classic hot hatched reimagined for the future. It would be great to see an American company offer a similar project, perhaps based on the original Golf GTI. Yes, I would like that. Known to us as the Rabbit, or even the iconic Acura Integra Type R. So I'm stoked about this, because this is something I've always wondered. Is there a market for resto-modded 80s and 90s normal cars? I'm not talking Diablos and F40s. Yes. I know that there's a market for that. But
yes.
Okay, it's possible to do this for 65 grand.
Yes.
Now, granted, I don't know that 65 grand includes the price of a GTI. I will admit, you might have to go buy a 205 GTI and then spend money on this. But even then, that means you're spending 80 grand on this car, and it drives so much better for any new car you can buy for 80 grand. Yes.
Could we do this with a 944, please?
So that's what I was wondering, is what other cars would this be possible for? And what other cars would you, Mr. Patty, like to see this done other than a 944?
928. Hear me out.
Okay.
I want a Restomod 928.
Okay.
With an LS1 and the works on the interior, like Porsche seats, slightly rolled fenders. I want the GTS wheels and stance, but because this is the thing, the 928s weak point, its Achilles heel was electronics.
Right.
So that's what we have to fix. Like,
Yep.
we can fix the electronics. So if there was a 928 that from front to rear was modernized electrically, and you just threw in a bulletproof but nothing crazy V8, 5 or 6 speed manual, you could sell that car done. I think people would buy it for 150.
I'm quite curious about this because, as you've heard on the podcast, I always talk about Restomods. That's my thing. It's what I do, and I'm always curious about what is going to be incoming and popular. Because no offense to my popular, or no offense to my boss, but we can't be building 69 Chargers forever.
Third gen Camaros and C4 Corvettes.
I think third gen Camaros and C4 Corvettes could be a good one.
The digital Corvette gauge, but modern, like LED lights,
would look so good. Yep, I think
still want one of those just so I can drive at night, listening to synthwave, seeing those digital gauges.
Yeah, that's the only reason to buy a C4 Corvette at the moment. That's all they offer.
Can you LS swap a C4 Corvette rather easily or no?
I could.
Right. So when I said, "Can you?"
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Listen.
So, well, the C4 Corvette was the last generation of Corvette where the transmission was in a normal place. C5s, they went to transaxle. So you can actually just take the engine and transmission out of my car and plop it in a C4. I say plop it in a C4. You have to do a bunch of wiring and stuff. Like, there's more involved than actually just bolting it into the car.
Plopping it, as it were.
Right. But, like, it fits, and...
What motor did the C4 have? Was it the original LT1?
LT1. Or if you were cool and bought a ZR1, you got the LT4, which is like the coolest motor that Chevy made that no one cares about.
Yeah, but you also have to pay out the ass for it, so.
Yeah, and then also if it breaks, the motor itself costs as much as the car. Because dual overhead cam V8s.
Yeah, so as it were.
As it were. I think Nick and I are going to spend a few minutes touching on the Goodwood Revival. We're going to skip over concept cars for now because honestly, they don't matter too much because they don't exist. But we're going to talk about the Goodwood Revival, which, if you don't know, old race cars being raced.
It's the coolest event that it has cars in the world. It's
so cool. It is happening actually as we speak. There's a live stream happening on YouTube if you haven't been watching it. The Goodwood Revival is fantastic. There's a Bonhams auction going on. I hopped on the live stream of the Bonhams auction earlier for like 5 minutes, and Richard Hammond was talking. So apparently there's interesting things happening at the Bonhams auction. He was talking up a Lancia Delta Integrale, as if that car needed to be talked up. But I was like, this is the most Goodwood thing I've ever seen. So the Goodwood Revival is fantastic. Nick and I are probably going to touch on it in next week's Automotive episode.
We'll recap it. Because
we'll recap it.
Revival has racing, which means motorsports, which means results.
Yes.
So we'll touch on it on Monday because we don't have.
I know for a fact that Jensen Button was racing his. He was racing his C-Type, which was owned by Fangio.
But he's also racing a 911.
He's also racing a 911. I think he's also racing. Adrian Newey's E-Type, which is the car that Jensen Button usually pilots, is the E-Type that actually it might be banned now. They might have banned specifically that car.
Yeah.
Because supposedly something about it spent some time in Red Bull's wind tunnel. I don't know.
You're joking, right?
No, like he engineered the snot out of that car.
Adrian Newey would be the guy to say, listen, I know it's vintage racing, but let me take it to our Formula One reigning world champion wind tunnel and tweak it.
Like, I know that there are people from the Goodwood Revival in members meetings that own like actual lightweight E-Types, like original lightweight E-Types worth like $2 million, and they're like, not a single panel of Adrian's car would bolt onto my car. Nothing lines up, nothing matches.
Kid or the dog that constantly tries to get into shit. You're like, will you stop it?
Will you just let something be for once?
Adrian is that way with aerodynamics. It's like, Adrian, for the love of God, it's a Le Mans winning Aston Martin. Leave it alone. He's like, no,
it's fine. It was actually really good.
Adrian's like, it's not optimized for aerodynamic efficiency.
But as far as Jenson Button's C-Type goes, so he has the only factory brown C-Type ever, and it happened to be owned by Fangio. Gorgeous car. It broke. So I hopped on and was watching some of it yesterday.
So it's a legendary car, but at the end of the day,
it's still British.
Jaguar.
It's still a Jag. So I hopped on the live stream for a few minutes the other day, and all I saw was Jenson Button pulling in the middle of the race and just throwing his hands up and getting out of the car. And I was like, but you still own a C-Type at the end of the day, so you, sir, are winning.
It's funny how much he hyped it on Instagram and stuff, and it's like he gets into
He did like a whole Instagram post about it, which, by the way, if you don't follow Jenson Button on Instagram, go take a look at his C-Type. It's gorgeous.
Also, his Lotus Avija.
Yes, his Avaya is gorgeous. According to Lotus, it's Avaya.
I could not care what Lotus thinks, TBH.
It's their car. You have to care what they think.
No, I don't.
Okay. So their his new Lotus hypercar looks quite good. It's in his Benetton colors, which
Braun.
is Oh, sorry, it is Braun. I don't know where I don't even follow Formula One. I've never even heard of the sport.
To be fair, Ben was only a wee little lad when Jenson Button drove, so you know.
Actually, yes, a very small lad. But I think, unless Nick Patty has any final thoughts, that's going to do it for episode 73 of the Clutch Dump.
I am actually stoked beyond belief for this weekend's motorsport episode.
Because
6 hours of Fuji World Endurance.
Okay, I didn't know if there was anything else that I was missing.
6 hours of Fuji World Endurance. I have Super Cup to catch up on. We have
MotoGP.
MotoGP. Do we have IMSA? No, that's next week.
IMSA's next weekend. There's something else. Rally Acropolis.
And NASCAR.
And NASCAR. There's a lot going on this weekend.
IndyCar, Laguna.
Oh my gosh, we have everything. Oh, that was a heck of a crash that someone took through the corkscrew yesterday.
I didn't see that. I'm going to have to go watch.
Oh, there was a great still photo on Instagram of someone with all 4 wheels off the ground and the nose just buried in the corkscrew. And I'm like, this is why we don't race here anymore. This is a really unsafe racetrack.
Imagine F1 at Laguna Seca.
Oh my gosh. By the way, for those of you listening, Dorna Sport, I'm looking at you, Dorna Sport. Can we get MotoGP at Laguna Seca again, please? Please, that's all we ask for. We don't ask for much. We ask for Laguna Seca.
Oof.
Yeah, so good. Fantastic. I'm going to make sure to watch that. If I miss anything, I'm going to make sure it's not IndyCar, because Laguna Seca is one of the coolest tracks ever, so that's going to be super good to watch. But until then, that's going to do it from us here at the Clutch Dump for episode 73. Like Nick said at the top of the show, go do all the things. Follow us on social media at The Clutch Dump, all the podcast platforms at The Clutch Dump. Make sure you follow, leave a rating and a review if you can. It helps us grow and find a bigger audience. If you're watching this on the YouTube, thank you so much for sticking around, and thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like and share the video. Comment down below what else you would like to see done as a, quote, cheap Restomod like this Tolman 205 GTI or anything else. Let us know if you like the Tedson Daydream or if it does in fact look a bit like a goldfish. But that is going to do it from us here at episode 73 of the Clutch Up. We will see you next time.